All right, let's dive into one of the biggest stories happening in global tech right now. India's absolutely massive high-stakes gamble to become a semiconductor superpower. We're going to look at how this is finally shifting from just a dream into a full-blown reality.
So let's start with this one number, 90%. Right now, that's how many semiconductor chips India has to import. And look, that's not just some random statistic. That's a huge economic vulnerability and a really big national security risk for a country with such massive tech ambitions. So how in the world do you fix a 90% dependency? Well, India has launched this incredibly ambitious multi-billion-dollar plan to basically flip that number on its head and build a powerhouse semiconductor ecosystem right from scratch.
And we need to be clear here, this is so much more than just a business play. This is a strategic move for what you'd call technological sovereignty. You know, in a world where supply chains are kind of fragile and geopolitics are tense, making your own chips is pretty much essential for national security.
This number really puts the economic pressure into perspective. We're talking about a nearly $100 billion trade deficit with China in just the last fiscal year. And a huge piece of that imbalance comes from importing high-tech stuff, especially the very chips India is now determined to make itself.
Now, this is all happening at the perfect time because of a global business strategy called China Plus One. Basically, companies all over the world are trying to de-risk their supply chains. They don't want all their eggs in one basket. So India is stepping up and positioning itself to be that plus one, the new, stable, and really attractive hub for high-tech manufacturing.
And you can see this strategy playing out in real time right here. I mean, just look at Apple's pivot to India. The percentage of iPhones sold in the US that are made in India has absolutely skyrocketed. This proves that the country can handle the most complex, demanding global supply chains. This isn't just a theory anymore. It's actually happening.
So what's the playbook here? How is India actually making this happen? Well, the whole strategy is built around one central, powerful policy, the India Semiconductor Mission. The government is putting some serious cash on the table. Through this mission, they're offering to cover up to half the cost for building everything, from the giant fabrication plants or fabs, all the way to the facilities that do the assembly and packaging, which is called ATMP. It's a really aggressive move designed to pull in massive investments. And it's not just the central government getting in on the action. Individual states, like Gujarat, are creating their own semiconductor policies, piling even more incentives on top of the federal ones. This has kicked off what you could call a high-stakes subsidy race, where states are basically bidding against each other for these game-changing projects.
And you know, this plan is already moving from just being words on paper to actual concrete being poured. The government has given the green light to key projects, and major construction is already happening. This ambition is turning into action.
Just look at the scale and the variety of these projects. You've got global giants like Micron from the US building packaging plants, which is a huge vote of confidence. And at the same time, you have homegrown champions like Tata partnering with Taiwan's TSMC to build India's very first major commercial fab. It really shows they're not just focused on one piece of the puzzle, they're trying to build the whole ecosystem.
Now, while large-scale chip manufacturing is new for India, the country has a kind of secret weapon. It's been a global powerhouse in chip design for years, contributing up to a quarter of the world's entire design talent. All the big players, NVIDIA, Intel, Qualcomm, they all have massive R&D centers there. So India has this incredible head start when it comes to talent and expertise.
Okay, but let's be real. This journey is not going to be a walk in the park. The road ahead is filled with some pretty major obstacles. And that brings us to the reality check that comes with this kind of massive ambition.
Maybe the single biggest hurdle is a massive skills gap. See, while India is a beast at design, it just doesn't have enough experienced people for the super specialized manufacturing jobs. Projections are showing a shortage of up to 350,000 qualified people by 2027. And here's the real danger. India could end up becoming just a training ground, developing all this amazing talent only to lose it to global competitors.
And beyond the talent issue, there are some really basic infrastructure challenges. I mean, chip making is insanely demanding. It needs unbelievable amounts of ultra-pure water and a power grid that absolutely cannot flicker, not even for a second. On top of all that, India doesn't have its own sources of critical minerals like gallium, which creates a whole new dependency on countries like China for the raw materials.
If you want a story that perfectly captures the kind of unique, on-the-ground challenges India is facing, you have to hear about Tata's packaging plant in Assam.
The site has a peculiar problem: wild elephant herds. Seriously, their footsteps create ground vibrations that are strong enough to completely ruin the incredibly sensitive nanometer-scale production. So what's the solution? They're building a specially engineered elephant-proof barrier. It's just a wild example of the complex problems they have to solve.
So when you put it all together, this huge ambition on one side and these pretty formidable hurdles on the other, what does the future of India's semiconductor dream actually look like?
That number right there, that's the prize. India's own domestic semiconductor market is projected to more than double by 2030, hitting about $110 billion. That enormous internal demand for everything from smartphones and 5G to electric cars is a powerful engine that can drive all this growth.
At the end of the day, this is a massive, high-stakes gamble. Success is absolutely not guaranteed. It's going to depend entirely on whether India can solve these really complex challenges of talent, infrastructure, and supply chains. But if they pull it off, this journey could truly reshape the entire global technology map.